Thank you, and welcome to our next videotaping of another cool team from Orange County. This is the Child and Family Clinic, and this is a clinic that works in relationship to our previous clinic, the Port Jervis Clinic, but they have their own unique set of things that they do and ways that they operate, and so we've invited this cool team to the table to go through another kind of a set of illustrative questions. One of the things that I wanted to speak with this team about is how it is that you might approach the compass doing, because we realize as we go through these questions, you might have the potential as a team to talk for quite some time. What you want to do is go through this as efficiently as possible. And some organizations may not be able to do the whole process in one setting. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to advise you guys about is that if you have some natural way of coming together as a team, say for example you have a staff meeting where everybody is present, it's okay to say let's take a section of this mm-hmm. and do a section of it at a time in our usual coming together. Sometimes that's very efficient because you can't pull people offline for a second meeting. Okay? If it sort of messes up your usual staff meeting and you don't want to do it that way, then you may want to go and do the whole thing at one time mm-hmm. and say, well, let's just kind of get the whole process done and over with. If you do it that way, what I would shoot for is a time frame of about 2.5, at the most 3 hours. Okay? 3 hours would be really stretching it. To do that, though, you need to have somebody who's paying attention to the clock. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that timekeeper person, you could do it as a group if you wanted to, but it usually works to have somebody who's like really watching their clock. You would spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each question. Okay, so you go through it a pretty quick clip. If you're going to do it that way, though, in the beginning, give yourself a little space and time to wander around. Okay, because you want to have that open-ended time so that you can get rooted with each other. And sometimes you just need to, I'll just say this out loud, you need to toot your own horn a little bit to feel good about yourselves. Okay, so before you jump into looking at things you might improve, it's a good thing for a team to feel like they can bring their strength to the table and talk about the things that they feel proud of. Because this is not, the intention of this is not to diminish the things that we've done well. Okay, so ramble around a little bit in your own sense of being satisfied about what you do well. But once you get a little bit grounded with each other, then set the pace in going through the questions. Like I said in the beginning of the video before we had our conversation with Port Jervis, when you land on those questions that you find yourself hanging out in, do not go to resolving the problem. Otherwise you'll be there for weeks. Okay? Just realize that if you're hanging out in a question, that means that there's a follow-on conversation you want to have about that particular issue. Okay? So just score yourself, note at the bottom, and then pick that particular conversation up, maybe in a staff meeting or a CQI team meeting if you have it, or a change agent conversation, or wherever that's appropriate. Mm-hmm. Okay, so don't go through to resolution. I would recommend that outside of timekeeping, that you don't do something like facilitated process, because if you're a healthy team and you can talk to one another, it's really good just to talk. And sometimes you can overstructure this conversation and suppress the wandering, which naturally gets you to the things that you think are most important. So don't worry about having one of your team members be a facilitator, and I certainly would not recommend bringing in an outside facilitator. It's not necessary. You actually get a better conversation if you're a cool team and you just talk to each other. Okay? If you think you need facilitation, my strong recommendation is that you do some team building to get to the place where you don't. Okay, work on yourselves and really kind of come to hold each other in the highest regard and share your opinions and practice doing that before you get to this process. Okay, because there's a spirit to this. Okay, that you really want to be able to kind of embody when you come to the table, okay? So, Child and Family Clinic, why don't we go around this circle and, oh, before we do that, would you like to tell us about Child and Family Clinic?
Sure.
A little bit about what you do?
Yes. I'm Joe Perales. I'm Director of Child and Family Clinic. We're located in the city of Newburgh. We have a staff of 6 social workers, about 45 hours per week of medical time, medical staff time. We have a care coordinator and a family support worker that provide in-home services, clinic case manager as well.
Speak up just a little bit.
Clinic case manager as well that provides in-home services. And we emphasize working closely with each other, partnering on cases, making sure that there's a lot of dialogue and making sure that we're also partnering with school officials and other community providers.
Beautiful, thank you very much. So, nice introduction. You want to tell everybody again what you do within the clinic?
Yeah, as clinic director, I work closely with the staff. I oversee day-to-day operations and make sure that service delivery runs smoothly.
Beautiful, thank you, thank you. Why don't we go this way?
Good morning. I'm Regina Overley. I'm the senior secretary in the clinic. I oversee the front-end staff. I welcome clients. I do referrals, any calls that come in that may need immediate attention. If I can't help them, I'll get the clinic director. I do posting, cash posting. I do it all.
You do, don't you? Yeah, great, thank you.
I'm Jennifer Height. I'm a staff social worker at the clinic. I do intakes and therapy for adults, children, and family.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Kristen Asta. I work as an employee for RSS, co-located at the clinic. I am a care coordinator. I work for the Orange County System of Care along with the family partner, and we serve high needs youth and their families. We work in a wraparound approach and a team-based format, and I facilitate monthly team meetings, and we really pull in all the supports to work with the families.
And some little bird before told me you were a prototype. Thanks, thanks.
I'm Sandra Atkin. I'm the administrative officer for the department, in charge of the billing, plus also the systems person, and multiple other things.
Good morning, I'm Tom Bolzan. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the Orange County Department of Mental Health. I also serve as the Director of Clinical Services and have oversight responsibility for our 3 clinics.
Fabulous. And if these two folks look familiar, it's because they were in on the Port Jervis taping, and you guys have multiple responsibility over multiple clinics, right? So, great. So you got hands-on with Child and Family Clinic as well. All right, so I'm going to do similar to what we did, but I am going to pick different questions for you so we can cover some ground here for the video audience. So I'll do the same process. I'll take you guys by the hand and walk you through your first question, and we will incrementally take the training wheels off, and we'll see where we wind up. Now, we're going to get to cover a couple more, maybe 1 or 2 more questions than we did before, because we have a little bit more time with you guys because the instruction set was laid down in the front of the video, okay? So, okay, you ready? Ready? Okay, all right. So I still want to start with the first page, first section, program philosophy. Okay. And I will give you guys question number 4. And you want to start us out, Chris?
Okay. The program environment, waiting room, treatment spaces, wall posters, flyers, etc., creates a welcoming atmosphere that supports engagement and recovery for individuals and families with both mental health conditions and substance abuse conditions.
Now I'm gonna just do something for illustrative purposes. So if, for example, you say within our settings we've gotten all excited about becoming a trauma-informed care clinic, or we're really very interested in helping people identify their chronic health needs. Okay, whatever you think the expansion definition of complexity is for you, it's okay to expand the reading of this to say, pays attention to their complex needs, mental health conditions, substance conditions, trauma issues, okay? So feel free, take liberty. Okay? We wrote this kind of narrow so that everybody could find their footing in it, but do please expand your thinking if it fits you at this moment. Okay, so great reading of the question. Since you had the honor of reading the question, you get to put your ideas out there first.
So we can apply the question to what fits our environment?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So in Newburgh, where the clinic is located, we have a lot of diverse families and people from a lot of different cultures. And something that the clinic has done, I guess in the last few years, I think, is put up a lot of different posters and pictures and things on the wall that show multiculturalism and diversity. And that's something that's been really nice. Not only does it give a lot of color and it makes the space look very welcoming and nice, but it really shows the diversity of the people that we serve. So I think if we were to rate on that and serving our population in that way, mostly is definitely something as far as the way we are inviting in our space. That would be my answer for that.
Okay, very good.
I think we have a really nice space. We have a pretty decent-sized waiting room. It has pictures of Newburgh and the area, paintings, I think, from local artists. We've had work that clients have done. There's some quilts, and so we have a nice group room, and we have private offices. It's a nice space. I would say mostly because sometimes the waiting room is cold, but I think that we kind of adjusted our. I think we had some construction, so sometimes it's been cold in the winter, but then that has gone away. So that's why I would say mostly.
Good.
I totally agree with Kristen. We recently had our waiting room redone. They put up new pictures, and it's beautiful, actually. A lot of comments from clients, really diverse pictures, because the community we serve is like diverse. So it's like really nice and welcoming for the clients, and then the clinical and the support staff up front, they greet them as well. So they appreciate that.
Very cool.
I agree with them all. The piece, though, that I love the most is the community resource piece that we have in our waiting room. It's a community resource wall, and I'm on a lot of listservs, so I get a lot of information about support groups, perhaps for a support group for maybe a woman who is a victim of domestic violence and she doesn't speak English. It's a great resource for some folks. So to put that out there, and lots of information I'll get, and I'm always sifting through it and saying, what's good for our folks, the people that walk through the door, to see and just know what are the some of the terrific services that we offer here in our community. We have parenting resources. It's a free subscription every month. We get a parenting magazine that seems to go very quickly. You can tell the parents really, they take it with them. It's another terrific thing. Mental health periodical we get every quarterly. There's one specific to the autistic population. So I'm always looking to stock that. I go to the Youth Bureau and get they have a booklet they put out every other year as well. And just making sure that while you're waiting in the waiting room, and if you've got a little bit of time, or say after a session, you can always look for valuable information there as well. So that's actually my favorite part.
That's cool. I like your smile about it too.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm torn. I fully agree with everything that Joe and the team have set up to this point. The Child and Family Clinic was the first waiting room of our clinics to go through a renaissance, through a grant that we had, and to imagine that we had a local artist commission a painting, a mural of the local Newburgh waterfront, and it's just absolutely spectacular. And it's also an educational place, and we're in a basement level clinic without windows, so every inch of the clinic is about as comfortable and welcoming as it can be for that type of space. The part that I wish we could change is we go through, customers that come into our clinic go through security at the main level. So there's kind of a layer that's not necessarily welcoming and not always as aesthetic. When you get downstairs to our clinics, it's like you've arrived at an oasis. So our clientele, I mean, the good news, when they arrive at our space, it's really a great place to be, but they go through a couple unnecessary steps to get there.
What kind of building is the clinic in?
It's in a government-owned building where there are other government services that are offered, probation, social services. So there was a decision made from the very beginning that all people entering would go through a magnetometer, and there's security there. We've worked very closely with them over the years to become sensitive and customer-friendly to the people we serve. And for the most part, it works out okay. Sometimes it doesn't.
I actually have not seen the new waiting room. It's been that long since I've been down to Newburgh, sadly. But I have been there enough to consider the fact they're in a basement, which cannot always be the easiest place to be in any building with no windows or no real access to windows. The offices, people have done very nice jobs with their offices. As a county-run facility, sometimes it's difficult just to get a replacement of a chair when you really need one, but people have taken their own personal items and put them in their offices to make them welcome, and I find that to be a very nice thing, because if you do have to see somebody, it's probably nice to know that, wow, they do have family. Oh, this isn't like a sterile environment. I think it's very welcoming. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you, Kristen, to read the question again,
Okay.
as written.
As written. The program environment, waiting room, treatment spaces, wall posters, flyers, etc., creates a welcoming atmosphere that supports engagement and recovery for individuals and families with both mental health conditions and substance use conditions.
So continue to talk.
I think 4 still. I mean, even our case manager has a poster board outside of her office that has, food pantries and, local referrals as well, so.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have all access to what clients would need if they came in and wanted information accessible to them in our waiting rooms.
Do we have lists up about substance, like AA meetings or any treatment providers for that?
Yes, we have all of that out on the bulletin board.
Okay.
But keeping it stocked, so it's always out there, and there's always room for improvement. I see a 4.
Yeah.
I think, I think we could, do a better job of making sure that the information is always out there. And adding some more substance abuse treatment type information as well.
I would agree. I think some of the poster material is also in Spanish, and, we've made a commitment to the bilingual needs of the community we serve. So, I love the commitment to diversity and culture, and even just the understanding of having it printed in different languages is important.
And our manuals are in Spanish too. Things that we hand out are English and Spanish.
Right.
Yep.
Any type of handouts about different mental health disorders.
I think another thing that each of the clinics have also is, a play area for kids. If you have kids in your waiting room, you need to keep them occupied a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. I think also the people that are in the different areas are always very welcoming too, and I think that's as much important to program environment as, wall posters.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
also couches and a
the
television.
TV, yeah, right.
Yeah, with Disney movies.
Comfortable.
People seem very comfortable. They're
Yeah.
sometimes sleeping.
Yeah. They're like a
They're
home
very
atmosphere.
relaxed.
And then we have our playroom where we could do play therapy, which is nice too.
So Kristen, why don't you take everybody around the circle and see if you can get a number from everyone? Starting with yourself.
Okay. I gave it a 4 for mostly.
Me too.
I did too. 4.
4 for me.
4.
I know why Tom's hesitating because of that, the security part of it.
That's right.
But other than that, I guess it would be a 4.
Well, what a coincidence, everybody's got a 4, that's cool, so you get a 4, right? Okay, here you go. Yay. Okay, all right, little process, a little highlighting some things, okay. So I love how you said, wow, the whole issue of being culturally relevant to people and really going whole hog with it and making sure the materials are accessible to people who speak different languages, and people see themselves in the things we've put in on the walls, and this is really exciting to us, and we're trying to become a learning resource for folks, and we've got materials up, and you know, I would like to see your mural. It sounds fabulous. And, you know, those icky basements get turned into places that really do feel like oases. You know, this is just a wonderful thing. So, so you guys are clearly strongly engaged with making the space an inviting and welcoming space. And then there's this clunker thing, you know, it's like, but before you get to us, your first experience coming to the building that we are in, even though we're in the basement, you know, it is the building that people know they're coming to. And there's a magnetometer and all of this stuff, and we're working as hard as we can to figure out what to do with the thing that's called security up front. But boy, when they get to us, they feel a sigh of relief because they've made it through, right? So, and you know, with that hesitation, you know what's behind that hesitation, right? You
Yes.
have this whole set of thoughts about, does everybody who needs to really make it through that magnetometer? You know, and particularly if we're thinking about the people who are in the most distress. Okay, and so this is the kind of thing where I like to say, you got to a sub-question. You know, through your conversation, you got down to another level of detail about what is a really serious concern. You know, because the whole idea of welcoming people who need us the most is important, it's critical, right? So if something, those moments of hesitation, okay, even in the robustness of all this really wonderful stuff that you've done to make your space the oasis that it is, that moment of hesitation, pay attention to that. Don't let that moment of hesitation disappear, because you know in your heart of hearts that there's something there that you need to keep thinking about. Okay, you need to keep thinking about. Now, just as a teaching moment, and not at all a reflection on this particular conversation, but just so that we bring things to the forefront that need to be brought to the forefront. The people, from my experience going around the country, really looking at outcomes for people, the population of people who tend to do the very worst, the people who are at greatest risk of having the poorest outcomes, are the people who are very reluctant to engage. Okay, they're usually people who are in severe distress. Most of the things that are going on with them are going on just floridly in their life. And they're making decisions to come seek help, usually not on their best day. Something has gone wrong. And they're the people who I like to say knock once and then don't come back. Okay. The people, they kind of bounce off of our front door. So in spirit of you know, thinking about how do we always improve things to engage the people who need us most, you might want to say that one of the things we want to highlight is, what do we do next to improve that first engagement with our building? Okay. Now I'm thinking of, you know, I love doing this because I immediately think of, you know, 1,000 things you could do for that person who is like so nervous they can barely manage to open the front door, right? And you know, my brain goes to all of these wonderful things, but it's not my clinic and it's not my brain that's there. But I would encourage you guys to say, yeah, that moment of hesitation, we know why that's important. There's probably something that is a next step we need to take, and it would be cool, I think, to just brainstorm with each other for the sole purpose of saying there's lives.
I have to say, though, in the time that I've been there, only one client has brought up going through that. upstairs, to me.
Oh.
I know, no, but I mean, like, most of them, and then, you know what, he got over that by the
Yeah.
second time. He's,
Yeah.
maybe I'll bring less stuff in, and we kind of had a process,
Yeah,
how to,
exactly.
you know, if you're gonna get the care you want here, let's find a way to make it okay to get
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah,
So you know, most of my clients haven't had
right,
a discussion about it even.
right.
Mm.
So,
So-
so this is cool, because what you could do, if you wanted to, is you could prompt the discussion with the
Mhm.
customers. You say, so what was that experience like for you? Because
Mhm.
most people are polite, they won't,
Yeah, they just get through it and they come down,
yeah,
you know, they don't really.
they're, you know, they're not going to, you know, bring something up that they think would, you know, that they've gotten through. So you could actually, as a quality improvement thing, you could prompt a conversation with your customers, say, what is that experience like?
Mhm.
Is there any idea that you have that might
Mhm.
have made it easier for you? Are there things that you've heard that might make it easier
Mhm.
for people? So I'm not gonna belabor this point, but I do want to, because you also have not just the magnetometer, but you have, other services in that building. So, just think about, different kinds of situations that people are dealing with coming into your building. So one of, any number of the people you might be working with may have gone to other services in these buildings. So you may have people who go to probation. You may have people who have been under conditions with child welfare. So when they're coming to that building, think of it, it has a little bit of a relationship to trauma-informed care.
Mhm.
So if you've been through an experience which has been traumatic in your life, say you had to remand your kids over to custody,
Mhm.
okay, and that happened to be the place where you did that, or say you were arrested and now you're on probation, and your probation officer actually hangs out there,
Mhm.
and maybe you're kind of backwards with your probation officer. So when you think about it, and it's not that we can resolve all of this to make it nirvana for people, but it is interesting to think about the broader experience that people are having. And sometimes your best access to tap that is to say, well, let's go to our customer base
Mhm.
and be, do what other customer service organizations do, is they ask their customers, is there anything that we could do to make it an easier process for you? But there's still gonna be a set of people who may never even choose,
Yeah.
may never make their way there because probation is there, because that. So doing things on the very, very leading edge to outreach to those folks and engage those folks, I think of kind of like how do we have a welcoming opportunity that is before our literal front door.
We've spent a lot of time talking and planning and working over the years to try to create the best environment, pre-environment for the people coming in for our service, and try to prepare them. And most recently, we've talked about peer services or a peer greeter in the waiting room to help set the stage for the treatment when they meet with the therapist or the medical staff. Seldom ever is the experience going through security, does it help to set that environment?
Yeah.
So it works contradictory to that. And it's an active issue we're looking at, and we're looking at other doorways, and, we have plans and dreams, and hopefully we'll get there soon.
Exactly. So this question kind of illustrates, we've done a superb job of internal. We still have this moment of catching our breath because there's more work to do.
Mhm.
We're working on it. So if you were to take this conversation and put it into, your action plan setting, you want to give yourself credit for the work that you've done, okay, and build off of that strength, knowing that there's places that you're intending to go. If you're already doing something, that stuff counts in your improvement plan. So it's not like going through this tool, you want to let's pick other things. Okay, pick other things if you really think those other things are important. But just use your planning, your action planning process to bring in the things you're already working on and just further get organized about them as a team.
Mhm.
So you might actually come up with an action plan that is filled with the stuff that you were already intending to do.
Mhm.
And that's perfectly legitimate. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is not about going on and creating additional work if you really weren't intending to do that additional work. But if you do find something, okay? Now, one of the things that you also got to in this question that I'll kind of illustrate is, you know, you have that resource area where you've got domestic violence, parenting, these things, and we have issues on, or resources on things like substance use meetings in the community and that sort of thing. So one of the things that you can do, and this is for some of the organizations that might be watching this too, is you say, okay, let's take the issue of, you know, somebody coming in who to your setting who has an active mental or an active substance use issue, right? And you say, do we have for those folks things that the substance providers would have in their waiting rooms? And you say, hey, you know, we have substance partners out there. The audience is probably full of some substance partners. Could we strike up a conversation with them about getting the materials that they use? And maybe they would like some of the materials that we use, and we could swap them. And that would be an easy step to kind of upgrade the resources that we have, okay? So you can do things really simply,
Yeah.
you know, to make things just a little bit more accessible to people, and that simple stuff counts. You know, simple stuff is really sometimes the solution, okay? So you guys did a really cool job with this question. Okay, so I'm gonna be a little less involved in the next question, okay? Okay, and I'm just gonna flip you over to page 2. Okay, now, prepare yourselves, because this is gonna be a conversation, okay, ready? I'm gonna start you with question number 3, okay, so why don't we go from scratch?
Clinical record-keeping policies support documentation of integrated attention to mental health and substance use issues in a single progress note and in a single client chart or record. Yes, our progress notes are pretty thorough. They have different checkoffs. Have they been to substance abuse treatment? And then we include our treatment plan goals of what we worked on. So I think our progress notes are pretty good.
Checkoffs and narrative boxes. If you check yes, there's a mandatory field for a narrative box. Elaborate on that. If there's a mandatory lethality question, for example, you check yes, or anything other than no lethality concern, it becomes a narrative box, and it is a safety plan that is mandatory as well. So just to give you a feel for how our progress note is outlined. I would say for health specifically, there is a generic narrative box. Doesn't specifically ask for, for health. Really, it's the goal, intervention, response, plan, and then there's a bunch of questions around lethality, safety, and anything that might have occurred that's significant between this session and previous session.
Hospitalization.
Hospitalization.
Is there a detox question?
There's a
Yeah,
detox
ER.
question. There's something around work. There's something around
School.
school attendance, arrests.
Even the forms give a lot
Any
as well.
suicide attempt? There's a lot of questions.
In the last 2 years, we've gone to performance-based contracting for our community as a whole, but in addition, we made sure we did it with our own services. So part of the questions, a lot of the questions that are in the progress notes are what gets us to the performance-based portion of our contracting or of our work itself. So I think that's even enriched the progress notes and what is asked on it every time you see a client.
It was a challenge to add all of that and at the same time design it, making sure it's user-friendly for collaborative documentation, and for putting yourself in the shoes of a clinician that has to complete this. Is it efficient? Is it clear?
Yeah, I'm torn again. We have an electronic medical record that prompts people to respond to mandatory things. We have a scheduling model, based on the economics of the operation of our clinic, which reflect people working 45 minutes back to back. And, you know, they spend time engaging and providing treatment, and while they're in that moment, together with the customer, they're writing about what happened or what progress made or what steps they made. Our progress note that talks about the impact of that visit is prompted to look at lethality and prompted to connect with the treatment plan, but I don't believe it always integrates health and substance abuse, maybe to the point that it needs to. You know, we have a project in our clinics where it's a CQI project where we're making sure that everyone that we work with has a primary care provider and that we know who they are and we're communicating to them. But I believe that those are probably areas that we could use more work with.
Okay, so now it's the question reader. One of the things you can do is to ask yourself, has everybody spoken?
Did you speak?
Yes, I did.
I think I did.
Well, I mean, I don't really do too much of this, so I can't really speak a lot on that. I just know the progress notes are done, but not always on time.
Yes, and I'll know coming from the billing aspect, we're always seeing the
Yeah.
emails that go around that say, oh, this one, this progress note's not done, can't bill without the progress note. You know, so you have to get it in so we can bill, or we're trying to override it, which is always a lot more work, but it's one of probably the areas where we communicate a lot between billing and the clinics.
And I just have to say and put it out there that we talk about change constantly, and when we do, it's the idea that you're changing parts on an airplane that's flying in the sky. You know, we never land the plane, we never pull it into the hangar and say, let's change our progress note. We have to change it as we're continuing to be productive, continuing to see people, continuing to help people every day. You know, one of the unfortunate aspects of becoming a leader of a clinic operation is becoming an IT expert as well, to determine how the things that we know in our mind need to be incorporated in our treatment, how we incorporate that in an electronic medical record. They spend more time than they should with IT issues related to that.
Tip. So recognize the pattern, okay, so a person reads the question out loud, you get a little talk going, you reread the question, you talk some more, then you go around and you prompt a number from everybody, making sure that everybody's had a chance to contribute to the conversation. And then you come to some resolution about what you think your group number is. Okay, that's the pattern. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take more of the training wheels off and take you to another question. Oh, okay, here we go. It's on page 7. Okay. And would you do the honors of reading the question for us? It's question number 3.
Number 3. For each of the co-occurring issues listed in the plan, there is an identified stage of change, stage matched interventions, and achievable steps to help the person feel and be successful.
Thank you.
We're talking about clients, I'm assuming.
Talking about treatment plans?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
For treatment plans? Oh, wow. I don't deal with treatment plans.
I would guess that, oh, please.
Oh, no, go, because I don't really deal with treatment plans. because I'm not a therapist, so I don't know too much about the treatment plans, like you would know, or, I mean, I can't be helpful. I hate to say.
I mean, it would be just my guess that, I know we have at least one clinician, we used to have two, that had CASAC significant substance abuse training, as well as being a licensed social worker, that we know and we incorporate and we work identified stages of change, but our service plan, to my knowledge, does not incorporate formally stages of change. Would that be accurate?
I agree. I think we can do better in this area. And when I think of stages of change, I see here, I mean, it's not stages of change capitalized,
Right.
you know?
Mhm.
I'm thinking, you know, stages of change, it could be non-substance abuse treatment, it could be behavioral health process. I like the structure. I come from a family therapy, very structured type of training model, and I think there's always room for artistry, and it's important. But you know, I think that if this is more about structure, about a structured process, and taking someone through a process and making sure that there's small enough pieces in that 90-day treatment plan that it's achievable for therapist and client. You know, this is a direction I'd like to see us go. I think, you know, and I think the team would like it as well.
I'd like, I mean, it's talking co-occurring issues here, so it's not necessarily talking about substance abuse, which we don't really do. I think it's talking more about mental health issues and the plan, and how does that fit into our treatment plan? And I know I hear a lot about Access 1 and Access 2, not that I know what those mean, but it seems like there is like different ways to do some of that.
As part of the work that I do, I work as an extension to the clinic, and I do look at the treatment plans when I write my notes, and they are very detailed. And when someone is dealing with substance abuse or legal issues or family issues, all of that is really broken down very clearly and very well. So I have a real idea of where I'm going in order to help support the child and the family. In addition, System of Care, part of the program I work in, we do monthly team meetings, and we have pretty elaborate plans that look at every issue really that's going on, not only with the child but with the family. And we have recently improved our plans to include the parents as part of the plan and what their needs are. So not just the child, but if the parents are involved in the team, they also have goals. So we really look at everything that's happening, which includes usually financial, definitely housing, substance abuse, school, legal, really everything that could come up. They are included in the plan, and we share those plans with the team, with the clinic, and with all the support. So we really try to encompass everything that's going on. And like I was saying, in addition to just working with the child, now we've added the parents, because we see that their needs are as important and necessary in working on as just the child. And then we share the work that we're doing with the clinicians, who are always part of the ongoing conversation and looking at how we can serve that whole family. So I think we do a really good job of that. So as far as the question about the co-occurring issues and achievable steps to making the person feel successful, I think we definitely do work towards that pretty well.
Yeah, I think when I saw stage of change, I was thinking, are they in pre-contemplation, contemplation, where are they? And we may not specifically check off they're in pre-contemplation phase, but I think when we're doing our treatment plans, we wouldn't have, the goal might be working towards sobriety or working towards emotional stability, and then the interventions would be appropriate for what stage they're in. So I think that if you're doing an accurate treatment plan, you would take that into consideration. If it's going to your first NA meeting, doing 90 days, coming and talking with Jen and exploring your feelings, or if you're working on anger management techniques. So I think it's in there in maybe a less direct way, but it's has to be. So
I tend to see a lot of detail, detail, and I see, you know, I may see several goals around the mental health issues, the substance abuse issues, and around, you know, other issues that are significant as well. And I see lots of objectives, and so I see a thoroughness, and I see the 90-day or less remarks, the comments about what's occurred, you know, in the past 90 days in terms of attendance or non-attendance, or, you know, the discussions that happen, or the process in relation to the goal and the event and interventions and objectives.
So Joe, how would you score this?
I would say, the part, I would say a 2, because I think sometimes less is more, you know?
All
I
right.
think-
So let's
yeah,
go around
yeah.
the circle. So Joe's put out a 2, you think?
I would present the first 2.5 because,
Okay. All right.
you know, I've been
Okay.
talked into really
Okay.
being convinced of all the stresses, all the strengths that we have in other aspects. And in addition, we have this DLA 20 functional assessment tool, which has a point-in-time gap score that can really show progress over time. But stages of change are, you know, a traditional measurement of where people are in their addiction
Okay,
treatment.
so real quickly, 2.2, 2.5?
I would go with a 3. I think we could do a
3.
better job of incorporating system of care
Great.
philosophy.
3,
3.
3,
3.
3,
I'd go with 2.5 with.
2.5.
They're very
Okay.
hard on
So
themselves.
we're-
They're very hard on
Okay.
themselves. these guys.
So, good job, round of applause. You probably do a 2.5-3, something like that. Okay, so this is a beautiful, beautiful question for you. And it sounds like you were thinking, we could really do something with this, okay? So this is one of the things that I would say, point a light. You have kind of an experience with it where you're saying, hey, you know, we're really catching on to something. There's a place where you do it really well, but there's more depth to it. And we know that we have innately, we're doing some of it, but we could structure it better. So this might be an example of one of those points of light that you would write down here. Let's really focus on, you know, bringing our treatment plans to be stage matched for each issue, stage-based interventions, and get more systematic about it. So you guys did a fabulous job. What do they get, guys? Yay! Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good job.